Hello everyone. Today we are doing lesson 71. Only God's plan for salvation will work. Shall we begin? Oh, and as you can see, we've taken it outside. It was such a beautiful day out, we decided to take the lesson outside into nature to be with Thor and the birds. So enjoy the landscape with us. All right, let's begin. 1. You may not realize that the ego has set up a plan for salvation in opposition to God's. It is this plan in which you believe, since it is the opposite of God's, you also believe that to accept God's plan in place of the ego is to be damned. This sounds preposterous, of course, yet after we have considered just what the ego's plan is, perhaps you will realize that, however preposterous it may be, you do believe in it.
The ego's plan for salvation centers around holding grievances. It maintains that if someone else spoke or acted differently, if some external circumstance or event were changed, you would be saved. Thus, the source of salvation is constantly perceived as outside of yourself. Each grievance you hold is a declaration and an assertion in which you believe that says, if this were different, I would be saved. The change of mind necessary for salvation is thus demanded of everyone and everything except yourself.
All right, so that's telling you right there, folks, that the ego would have you searching and seeking outside of you for every single answer.
And would be blaming circumstances that are happening and say, if so-and-so didn't do this, and so if so-and-so didn't say that, then everything would be fine. That the whole reason why we have a problem is because this thing happened and shouldn't have happened.
Yeah, because this person shouldn't have done this or shouldn't have said that.
Right.
And it's that kind of stuff that we have constantly been taught and told, that we are to point fingers and place blame, to never accept responsibility for the choices and decisions we make, to think and believe the things that we do. And this is why it's having us truly look at this stuff. What is it that you're truly thinking and believing here? Why are you believing it? And as it says here, our ego's plan of salvation is to hold grievances. And all those do is eat us up within, making us feel like we're dying inside, for lack of a better phrase there. Because that's essentially what it comes down to, is that we feel as if we are dying inside. Let's continue. 3. The role assigned to your own mind is that in this plan, then, is simply to determine what other than itself must change if you are to be saved. According to this insane plan, any perceived source of salvation is acceptable provided that it will not work. This ensures that the fruitless search will continue, for the illusion persists that although this hope has always failed, there is still grounds for hope in other places and in other things. Another person will yet serve better. Another situation will yet offer success. Right there, folks. It's what we were just saying. It's all about pointing fingers, placing blame, thinking that if you take from somebody else, you will gain and they will gain. It's like thinking that by taking from the 1%, you are going to increase not just your wealth, but it will also not hurt them and increase their wealth as well. It just doesn't work that way. It's asinine to think that. You can't take one item, split it in half, and think that each person is going to get the whole amount there. That's not true. They only get a percentage of it. Alex?
Such is the ego's plan for your salvation. Surely you can see how it is in strict accord with the ego's basic doctrine, seek but do not find. For what could more surely guarantee that you will not find salvation than to channelize all your efforts in searching for where it is not?
Exactly. So the ego will have you searching outside everywhere but inside where it's at. And it will have you looking for and believing anything and everything being said to you as being the absolute truth, so that every time those beliefs fail you, you will end up seeking in someone else for that which you are seeking, which is within yourself. And you will focus, and as it says, you will channelize all your efforts in searching for it where it is not. Seriously, you will not find it. When you continue looking out there in your brothers, in some book, in some guru, you will not find what you seek. You'll find hints of it, tiny portions and pieces, but you will not truly find what you seek. Not until you choose to stop looking out there and start going within. Point blank and to the point here, folks. You got to go within. Let's continue. 5. God's plan for salvation works simply because by following His direction, you seek for salvation where it is. But if you are to succeed, as God promises you will, you must be willing to seek there only. Otherwise, your purpose is divided, and you will attempt to follow two plans for salvation that are diametrically opposed in all ways. The result can only bring confusion, misery, and a deep sense of failure and despair. Seriously, folks, the more you seek out there, the more pain and suffering you will incur within yourself. It's only by willingly choosing to only look within yourself that you will find your healing. And it's only by choosing to only look there and not divide your attentions that you will find the truth and be healed. And as it says here, looking outside and everyone else, all it keeps doing is bringing you confusion, misery, and a deep sense of failure and despair. Seriously, failure and despair. Alex?
How can you escape all of this? Very simply. The idea for today is the answer. Only God's plan for salvation will work. There can be no real conflict about this because there is no possible alternative to God's plan that will save you. His is the only plan that is certain in its outcome. His is the only plan that must succeed. Let us practice recognizing this certainty today. Sorry, I went on to the next paragraph. I'll just finish it. And let us rejoice that there is an answer to what seems to be a conflict with no resolution possible. All things are possible to God. Salvation must be yours because of His plan, which cannot fail.
Absolutely. And in those two paragraphs, it's seriously, it's telling you you can escape this hell that you've placed yourself in. And it's simple. Stop looking out there and start looking within. Start questioning everything you think and believe and know to be true. Everything that you are reading, hearing, watching, TV, all of it. Question it. Don't blindly accept what you are being told. Question everything. You know, recognize as you do these lessons, as you are practicing these lessons, that it's only in your willingness to truly do the work and look within it, this stuff, that you will begin to get the understandings to heal yourself. And as you do so, you will begin to also recognize that you cannot fail in this. It's impossible to fail if you are truly willing to do the work. Alex, the next read.
Begin the 2 longer practice periods for today by thinking about today's idea and realizing that it contains 2 parts, each making equal contribution to the whole. God's plan for your salvation will work, and other plans will not. Do not allow yourself to become depressed or angry at the second part. It is inherent in the first. And in the first is your full release from all your own insane attempts and mad proposals to free yourself. They have led to depression and anger, but God's plan will succeed. It will lead to release and joy.
One of the things that tends to happen as we are doing these lessons, and Alex has even run into this and has shared with you guys how he has felt this sense of depression and anger at all these things that were still problems and issues for him. And in that way, it was understanding that when we're angry, we are the ones with a misperception. We are the ones that are choosing to think and believe something that is not true. And that somewhere along the way, we're the ones that made a choice and decision to believe something. And just recognize, don't get upset and angry at yourself if you made a misperception in something, if you made a mistake. Because when these things happen, those are your chances. That's your opportunity to look at it and change your mind. To recognize, okay, I had a misperception here. Let's correct it. Don't get angry about it. Be joyful about it. Be happy, ecstatic. Dance up and down. Scream with happiness that you had a misperception and you can now correct it. It's something to be happy about, folks, not angry.
And the reason you can be happy about it is because there is a limited number of misperceptions that we hold.
Absolutely.
And every misperception that we correct gets us one step closer to God's plan of atonement.
Absolutely. And that's the key here. It gets us one step closer to fully being in His light of truth in all ways. Let's continue on. 9. Remember this. Let us devote the remainder of the extended practice periods to asking God to reveal His plan to us. Ask Him very specifically, what would you have me do? Where would you have me go? What would you have me say, and to whom? Give Him full charge of the rest of the practice period, and let Him tell you what needs to be done by you in His plan for your salvation. He will answer in proportion to your willingness to hear His voice. Refuse not to hear. The very fact that you are doing the exercises proves that you have some willingness to listen. This is enough to establish your claim to God's answer. So, I constantly am telling you guys that you have to ask, question. He is putting forth specific questions for a reason. You can't just ask, Why? Why me? Why the hell does this always have to happen to me? That isn't a specific question, folks.
Seems pretty specific to me.
No. You're not asking specifically why this specific item happens in this specific way every time that I specifically do these specific items in these specific steps.
You know, for me, what works for me is to ask, first to recognize that if I'm upset, I must have a misperception. Mm-hmm. And the second step is to say, please help me understand what my misperception is. And the third step is, please help me correct my misperception.
Yeah. Well, that's why here with everything, if you really want to have the answers, he gives you the sentences, the questions to ask. What would you have me do? Okay, you're in a chaotic situation. You don't know what to do. And so instead of trying to guess which way to go, say, well, okay, Father, what would you have me do here? Seems pretty simple, right? What would you have me do? Where would you have me go? Do you want me to go to the left? Do you want me to go to the right? Where would you have me go in this instant? What would you have me say, and to whom? Okay, these are the things that are going on right now in these situations, so where would you have me go? What would you have me say, and to whom? Who would you have me speak to in this moment? Instead of you picking and choosing who you think you need to go to, ask him instead. It's letting go of thinking that you need to be the one in control and that you need what, or that you know what everything is for. Because, honey, you don't know a damn thing. Simple as that. We do not know anything. This is why we need to ask for the truth. Ask and you shall receive. Alex?
In the shorter practice periods, tell yourself often that God's plan for salvation and only His will work. Be alert to all temptation to hold grievances today and respond to them with this form of today's idea. Holding grievances is the opposite of God's plan for salvation, and only His plan will work. Try to remember today's idea some 6 or 7 times an hour. There could be no better way to spend half a minute or less than to remember the source of your salvation and to see where it is.
Absolutely. So, using that form for today's idea is very helpful. Same with those questions that they give you here to ask. They are extremely helpful. Until I went and would play those questions over and over again within my own head as I was going through whatever I was going through. It wasn't until it was those particular questions that I started getting answers, honestly. So when it says here, use this form, there's a reason for it. So holding grievances is the opposite of God's plan for salvation, and only His plan will work. It's the truth, folks. You gotta let it go and hand it to God. You can't keep any of it. You can't hold on to this little bit, well, he hurt me, or they did this to me, and all those other things. You just can't keep doing that. You have to let it all go and say, okay, I have a misperception here. Please show me what it is. What is it that I'm misperceiving in this? All right, folks, this was lesson 71. Only God's plan for salvation will work. Thank you for joining us today. My name is Sabrina Reyenga.
And I am Alex Reyenga.
Please do the work, folks. Only you can do the work. Only you know what grievances you're holding on to within your own heart and mind. Only you know what you are in judgment of right now. Please do the work. Hugs, love, light, and blessings on your journey, my brothers. You are loved. We love you. Be the light you are meant to be.